Good reason why there hadn't been a lot of investigative reporting now. The
well, Tom can relate a story
in Houston.
The shotgun incident
has had some problems.
Well, the moderator of the show, Boys for Sale, had a shotgun go through his window, and then another one go through his that is the window of his home, and then another blast go through the windshield of his car as he was approaching the car to get into it. That kind of signal usually is sufficient to warn a person off. Any one of us in the country, and there aren't very many of us who have worked intensely on this for a period of years, has received threats and has been subject to at least feigned attempts. And the idea is that should scare us off. It has worked with a whole lot of people.
The day after Part 1 of Boys for Sale was cablecast, Tom Philpott's van was vandalized. The tires were slashed, and the accelerator was jammed to the floor. And then the following week, Tom was shot in what appears to have been an assassination attempt.
Has anybody been killed? Actually,
what about the guy that wrote the book that he got a shotgun blast that did wound him, I think, pretty seriously, didn't it?
Well, what then should society do about this? How can this problem be dealt with?
Well, it's a tall question. Yeah. Law enforcement has to be activated, and it has to be supported, and it has to be seen through the end of the procedure, so that you don't have congressmen pleading not guilty or nolo contendere and getting no penalty. The kids who are rescued in this process have got to be cared for and helped, and no one really knows how to do it, but it's got to be done. A way has got to be found. They've got to be helped. And then most obviously, we've got to find a way to reestablish a society which does not throw up, literally, 500,000 kids a year onto the city streets and leave them there to be hurt. American families have to have support. It's good enough to say to families, love your children, but they have to have the wherewithal to care for their children, and obviously American families do not. These kids are not minority kids in the main, but they're mainly poor kids. They're from hard-driven, hard-living families.
And it's so very, very sad, and it's so sad that we need to respond to them. We people who've got our stuff together and who think we know a lot about a lot of things, we just need to reach out to those kinds of kids. We need to go out there and find them.
How quickly can a city like Houston move in this area?
Well, we can move as quickly in this area as we have been in other areas. We can build $1 billion Houston Center downtown, then we can certainly move quickly to solve human problems and problems of people.
Father McGinnis, do you see a role for big business in Houston in this plan?
Yeah, one role is money. You know, and let's face it, a lot can be done with money. A lot of alternatives can be offered if we have the money to pay for them. And there's enough excess money in 10 corporations in this city to do anything we would want to save every one of these kids.
Shocking as it is, when you put it in perspective, maybe it's really not quite so unexpected considering the history of what the people have been subject to, who have been under the control and rule of these people. And you start to think about what's been done to the Indians, the terrible working conditions that people lived in for years and worked under for years, the dangerous condition, the pesticides that people are forced to ingest, the lack of safety in the places where we work, wars where people are slaughtered. There's really a long history of this, and this is this the same type of impulse focused just on a small boy, or is this something really unique, you think?
That isn't easy to answer, Frank, because in all honesty, this subject has baffled me from the time I first became aware of it until this day. I can't understand it. And I'm trying very hard, and it's very difficult. As an historian, I know that this society, probably above all in the world and in the history of the world, romanticizes childhood. But the historical record child labor, for one thing, indicates the society has not been good to children, has not protected children, in fact is contemptuous of children, heartless to children. And they're such helpless victims. Who can they go to? What constituency do they have? Nobody. The heartlessness that goes into it is certainly somehow connected with the heartlessness which ground up the Indians, black people, immigrant laborers, poor people in general, which is motivating the cuts in social programs today. Blindness to the actual living reality of people's situations. Yes, it's connected. But this is it's about the most hair-raising thing I think I've encountered in studying the history of my country. The slaughter of the innocents. It's the greatest slaughter of the innocents since Herod. And it goes on and on and on. And when the public gets a hint of it, nothing happens. The case of Price Daniel is instructive there. It came out in the custody hearing of Mrs. Daniel, who admitted to shooting her husband, that he attacked their son, and there was testimony that he had relations with other adolescents. There wasn't any inquiry as to what that might mean for society. Price Daniel is one of the major names of Texas. And all these other names that we've mentioned of people who have been caught and let off. There doesn't seem to be any willingness to make the connections which you have implied and face them.
And it's time we did, right?
Yeah, you're damn right, it's time we did. There needs to be police action. There needs to be action in the academy of which I am part to study this. There has to be rehabilitation for kids, and most of all, American families have got to be put on a footing where their children are not in jeopardy of being lost in this way. The whole society has got to answer for this, do something about it.
If we don't make this move, what do you think the results would be in Houston?
It'll get worse and worse and worse. There'll be kids killed in the dead of night and dumped on the highway, like they are right now. It'll get worse. It'll never get better. You don't sit back and see something like this. History has proven that. And just watch it, and it gets better. It'll get worse, much worse. Where can I go? What am I looking for? How can I touch what's deep inside? What have I lost? How can I find a love at last to ease my mind? Who can I find to tell me who I am? Who can I find to hold me closely? What have I got? How can I give a love at last to ease my mind? For love nor money do I seek among the streets by day or night. I've found it is not there, but maybe just that one day, one time, someday I will find a love at last to ease my mind. Who can I find to tell me who I am?